Yo, what's up everyone? It's your boy Hendrix in the building, and today I asked my followers on TikTok and Instagram to send me in their MMA hot takes. And today I'm going to be reacting to them, giving my own opinions. Let's see what y'all got. First, we have Mystic Soda Pop, who says, Damon Blackshear is the most complete fighter in the bantamweight division and would easily smoke Sean O'Malley. The way he outgrappled the best grappler in MMA Lab says it all. Shout out Damon Blackshear. Steez says Rob Font KOs Khalil Roundtree. I know this sounds crazy, but I mean, has Rob Font ever popped?
No.
Think about it. Really think about it. My boy MMA Central says Pereira is becoming extremely overrated and he loses to Ankalaev. I do agree with the first half that Pereira is becoming a tad overrated. I think a lot of people think he's flawless, unbeatable, indestructible monster, when I think if you just look at his fights, there's a lot of flaws that he makes that I think could be capitalized by the right person. But at the same time, I don't think that person is Magomed Ankalaev because I think he is even more overrated than Alex Pereira. I think Ankalaev, people think he's like Habib, and he's gonna just wrestle fuck Alex Pereira because Dagestan. Whoa. Oh my god. But if you really look at the catalog of Magomed Ankalaev, he doesn't win fights based off grappling. I think the Anthony Smith one's really one of the only ones where he won because of grappling. I mean, the two other fights where he really aggressively grappled heavy were, where he lost to Paul Craig by submission and where he drew with Jan Blachowicz. So, I don't know. And I'm pretty sure he has like what, a 33% takedown accuracy or some shit. Like, he is a very overrated grappler. Most of his style is striking, and I think on the feet he makes a lot of errors that I think Alex would capitalize on, especially those leg kicks, bro. Ooh, those leg kicks are gonna eat him up. My boy Zombie Man Jay says Islam is pound for pound a better fighter than Habib. Here's how I look at those two. I think Habib is better on the physicality side. I think he has a better chin. I think he's stronger. I think he has better cardio. I think physicality-wise, yes, Habib is better, but I think skill for skill, Islam Makhachev is the far better fighter than Habib Nurmagomedov. I think, Habib striking, while it got the job done, it was a bit sloppy, and I legitimately believe Islam is a top-tier striker in the lightweight division. I mean, just his counter-striking, his boxing, his kicks, everything, his defense, bro, he is so good. And that's just on top of his grappling ability. I mean, this man is able to win striking exchanges against Alexander Volkanovski and submit Charles Oliveira. That is a scary son of a bitch. Next, we actually have 3 hot takes from my boy Cloth Tables. First being Belal versus Leon will be exciting. Thank you. Oh my god, bro. I'm so sick of this idea that Belal versus Leon is going to be the most boring fight ever. I mean, just watch their first fight. It was exciting. Leon was pushing the pace. I don't know what it is, but there's something about Belal that draws this hatred from Leon Edwards that not even bringing up his dead dad could do. I mean, I just think stylistically also it's an interesting matchup because Leon, to me, is the most well-rounded welterweight on the planet because he is a guy who is labeled a kickboxer but is able to win grappling exchanges with Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, Gunnar Nelson, Rafael dos Anjos, Nate Diaz. Like, Jesus Christ, that is insane. And Belal Muhammad, to me, is a very dominant grappler with great chain wrestling who, to me, is a very underrated kickboxer. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup, and I think they will put on a good fight. The next one is Hasbullah would submit Pantoja by round 1 rear naked choke. I mean, probably. Hasbullah, have y'all seen it how he bullies Volkanovski? Man, I think he'd do it personally. I mean, that's just me though. And his last hot take is JDM beats Leon. Ooh. To me, that's interesting because a lot of Leon's matchups that he's had to go against and that he'll have to go against as champion are predominantly grapplers. So he usually, more times than not, has the striking advantage. But I really would like to see a fight where he doesn't exactly have a big advantage on the feet, because JDM is one of the best boxers in that division, without a doubt. And JDM also has some very underrated grappling, so I think that makes that a very interesting matchup. I ultimately believe Leon Edwards would walk out with the win, but I think it would be such a cool fight. I think it would be interesting stylistically, and I think JDM would give Leon a run for his money. Rambolin says Grant Dawson is a future champion? Brother, brother, Bro, if you know me, if you follow my TikTok, I'm kind of known for being a Grant Dawson hater. I'm not gonna lie, bro. You know, all credit in the world, but like, he's beaten some good people. He beat Marco Madsen. He beat Demiros Magulov. Like, it's not easy. He beat Jared Gordon, pretty good, but like, bro, I just think there are guys that do what he does, but better. Islam, Benil, Benoit, Armon are all similar to him, but they're more dangerous and they're better than him overall. You know, I think obviously he's like 30 years old. He has time to evolve and get better, but I don't know. I think on the feet he leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think he has a whole lot of power in his punches, which, you know, is what it is, I guess. And his chin is pretty questionable. I mean, he got knocked out by a straight from Bobby Green, a guy who's not really known for his KO power. So we'll see. We'll see, though. Only time will tell if Grant Dawson will become a champion, but I wouldn't bet on it, you know. Now for my boy Muay Thai Mike. UFC should order champions to fight the #1 contender, like boxing. If the champ refuses, they get stripped. I feel like I know where this is coming from. I feel like I can think of a recent example that is making you say this. But I have no problem with it. I think the UFC should pressure guys to fight the #1 contender a lot more often. I think the whole Stipe John fight is like, bro, I don't think any of us want to see that, but I don't know. It's just not a matchup that intrigues me, and I think the job as interim champion is to be the defending champion until the champion comes back, which also means that when the champion comes back, they are obligated to face you, but for some reason, John Jones doesn't have to. It's weird. I don't like it at all. I think it would be a lot more interesting if this happened, but also at the same time, I understand why it won't happen, because if you force them to face the #1 contenders, that leads to us not getting as many exciting matchups. Like, we don't get the rematch with Cheeto and Sean O'Malley, if that probably happens, which I know there's a lot of people that complained about it, but it was just a big fight and both sides wanted it a lot. Yeah, yada, yada. I do agree, but also at the same time, I understand why it probably will never happen. Now for my boy Flower Boy. The UFC wouldn't be where it is today if not for Ronda and Conor. They are on the Mount Rushmore because of that. I don't feel like this is really a hot take. I think, even though I don't like the idea that some fans have created that Conor McGregor made the UFC, I feel like it's disrespectful to guys like Chuck Liddell, Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner to say stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel like it's not a hot take to say Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor really changed the sport, and they changed the mainstream popularity. I mean, without Ronda, we wouldn't have the women's divisions in the UFC, and that is insane to think about. Conor McGregor brought so many casual eyes onto the sport, and that is so important. And I don't think anyone would debate with you that those are Mount Rushmore fighters. Clinch in MMA says Masvidal won his split decisions, but he always got robbed. Yes, that's why I feel like when people talk about the career of Jorge Masvidal, I feel like people need to add in a lot more context, because he does have a lot of losses, but how many of those losses should he have won? You feel me? Because, I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of the Damian Maia fight. I can think of the Benson Henderson fight, the La Quinta fight. Just there's a lot of the times where he will be put on the wrong end of the split decisions, and it's weird why it always happened to him. You know, even in boxing with Nate Diaz, I thought he beat Nate Diaz, but he lost a split decision. It's just a weird curse with him that he just can't win split decisions. Now, we got Gavin, who says the UFC throws prospects at higher level talent too quickly. For example, Joe Pyfer, Ikram, Robelis, and Sant Denis. On one hand, I do agree, but also I can see where the UFC was coming from in all of these. Joe Pyfer, I don't feel like Joe Pyfer was rushed. I think Joe Pyfer, he had some fights in the UFC up to that point, and Jack Hermanson is usually supposed to be the witness test to see where you stand in the division. I don't think he got rushed per se. I just think Jack Hermanson got underrated a lot in that fight build up, and I think he wasn't quite ready for Jack Hermanson, which doesn't mean he was rushed. I just think he needs just a tiny bit more time to rebound. Ikram, it's like, what other choice did they really have other than Ikram on that short of notice after Hamzat pulled out? I mean, really, there was no other real options, to be fair. Robelis, to be fair, with Robelis to Spain, again, we hadn't really seen much out of him. He only fought once in the UFC, and it was a really quick KO. But at the same time, it's the heavyweight division, so I feel like that plays a factor into him getting jumped up, was it is the heavyweight division after all. And Benoit, I do completely agree with Benoit, though. I feel like having him fight Dustin Poirier after facing his first ranked opponent in Matt Favola, I think that is a bit crazy. Even if both sides agree to it, it's a bit much. Now, we have B Money, who says Aljo was maybe the most overhated champion of all time. Did not deserve all the hate. I completely agree. Aljamain Sterling was a victim of circumstance. You know, for some reason he got in trouble for getting a legally knee in the face. That's like if you got mugged by someone and you got robbed and the police tried to arrest you for getting mugged. It's like, what? Why not the guy who did the mugging? You feel me? He gets a lot of hate for the Yan fight when it's Yan's fault, plain and simple. He made a dumbass mistake after being warned that Aljo was grounded. It's his fucking fault. I think people also don't acknowledge, like, Aljo made it right. Aljo made it right. Aljo beat him in the rematch. In my opinion, I think he clearly beat him in the rematch. So it's like, who cares now? And with TJ Dillashaw, again, TJ's fault. He knew something was wrong with his shoulder, and he still showed up with a built-in excuse. That's all it was a built-in excuse against Aljamain Sterling. And I don't think you can blame Aljo for that. I think Aljo clearly beat Henry Cejudo, which I think is a good win, no matter what any of you says. And the fact that they made him have such a quick turnaround against Sean O'Malley, even when he stated multiple times he was injured and wasn't 100%, I feel like that is disrespectful. I feel like it was clear the UFC was trying to get rid of Aljo for as long as he was champion, but, they couldn't quite do it. Next, we have CTR Create, who says the evolution of MMA is exaggerated. There's more high-level fighters now, but the best early to mid-2000s fighters could still be competitive today. Now, I don't think it's quite overrated just because of the fact that we have so many young prospects who are so well-rounded, which wasn't really seen before. It wasn't really normal back then for guys to come out the gate as well-rounded as we have now. But also, I do agree with the sentiment that a lot of the high-level dudes in the early 2000s could be competitive today because here's how I think about it. Anderson Silva. Think of how much Anderson Silva stuck out against the crowd. He was given the same knowledge, the same technology, the same training, everything as everyone else in his era. And yet he stood out that much against everyone. I feel like there is no way that he couldn't at least stand out just a little bit in the modern era. If you give him modern technology, modern training, modern knowledge, I feel like he would still be able to stand out, because if he can do it with the same knowledge back then, what makes you think it can't translate to now? And that is my whole thing with the whole, oh, but if so-and-so fought so-and-so, they would lose because the modern era is better than the old era. You feel me? Next, we have AN, who says Corey Sandhagen is the only bantamweight that has a chance against O'Malley. Now, I don't think he's the only one that has a chance. I think, Merab, while I think Sean beats Merab, I think Merab has a chance against Sean O'Malley. I think if Piotr Jan were to rematch Sean O'Malley, I think he has a chance of beating him. I think there are bantamweights that have chances, but I do like the idea that Corey has the best chance. I think Corey and Sean get compared a lot because they're both tall, lanky strikers at bantamweight, but at the same time, I don't think they're that similar. I think they make a lot of differences in their striking. Like, the only real similarities in their striking is the fact that they both switch stances and they both use feints. That's about it. I think it'd be a very intriguing matchup, and I would love to see that. Then we have Terran MMA, who says Holloway is a nightmare matchup for Islam. Ooh. No. It's weird to put him up against Islam when he's never really faced a guy who's going to aggressively grapple you and look to finish you on the ground the whole fight. But I think it would be an intriguing matchup. I think he would do better than people believe he would, but I wouldn't say he's a nightmare matchup necessarily. Next, we have Izzy, king of middleweight, who says Israel Adesanya is the greatest fighter to ever live. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's off the name, but there might be some bias. Just a tiny bit. I think he's one of the greatest fighters to ever live. I don't think he's the greatest, but he's definitely up there for one of. I think he is a top 10 fighter of all time, personally. Next, we have The Menace, who says, my take is being a weight bully is really just an excuse fans make when their fighter loses. I think this is a common thing. I think fans often make excuses for their favorite fighters losing. Brother, you did the same shit. Don't even play that game. By saying stuff like staph infection, weight bully, blah, 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 blah. My whole opinion on weight bullies, and this might be controversial, I don't know. If you can show up and if you can make the weight, it's all fair game. I don't believe in weight bullies, because I think if you can show up, make the weight, it's all fair. But yeah, that was all the MMA hot takes today. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments of them. Give me your own hot takes, and let me know if you want me to continue to do videos like this in the comments down below. I loved reacting to all of them, even if some of them I didn't fully agree with. It's been your boy Hendrix. We out.